Today, we're doing something pretty bold. We're going to deconstruct one of the most critical and maybe misunderstood concepts in Islamic economics, riba. And we're not just going to talk about it, we're digging deep into the source text to see what it says about a modern, multi-trillion-dollar industry.
Think about that for a second. A global industry worth $3 trillion was built on the foundation of avoiding one single word. But what if we got that word wrong? What if the very definition that whole industry is based on isn't quite what the source text was talking about? Well, that's the giant question we're tackling today.
All right, so to figure this out, we've got to put on our detective hats. We're starting with some linguistic forensics, going straight to the source and looking at the DNA of the word, if you will. We're talking about the three-letter Arabic root RBW.
Okay, check this out. Our first piece of evidence. The text puts riba in direct opposition to charity, which it says grows. And get this, the word for grow here is yurbi, which comes from the exact same root. Right away, that's a huge clue, right? The core idea here is growth, increase. And it doesn't stop there. Here's another example. The text describes a flood carrying rabwan, which means a rising, swelling foam. You see the pattern? Same root, same exact idea. Something that gets bigger, puffs up, swells. Let's lock this in with one more. The Quran describes the earth after rain, saying it tarbu, it swells and grows. I mean, the evidence from the text itself is pretty consistent, isn't it? The pattern is building. So what's the takeaway? The pattern is crystal clear. When we just let the text define its own terms, that root RBW is all about growth, increase, swelling. It's not some fancy financial jargon. Not yet, anyway. It's a really simple physical idea. Now, the big question is, what happens when this root becomes the specific word riba? All right, we've got the root meaning down. Now let's go to the scene of the crime, so to speak. We're diving into the key verses where riba actually shows up. What's the context? What's going on around the word? Well, the first thing you notice is that the text draws this super clear line in the sand. On one side, you've got al-baya, which is trade. That's totally fine, permitted. On the other side, you have riba, forbidden. The text even points out that people were trying to blur that line, saying, hey, it's all just business. But the Quran comes back hard and says, no way, they are fundamentally different.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how riba is described, ad'afan muda'afa. That means doubled and redoubled, or multiplied many times over. We're not talking about a simple 5% annual interest rate here. This is describing something explosive, something that compounds and spirals out of control.
And this gets to the absolute heart of the matter, the ethical core. The text says if you stop engaging in riba, you get back your ruz amwalakum, literally the head of your capital, your principal. What you put in is what you get back. Why? Because taking more than that is framed as injustice, as wronging someone. It's all about fairness.
Okay, let's recap. We've looked at the linguistic DNA. We've examined the evidence from the verses themselves. It's time to put all these pieces together and build a profile. Who is the real culprit here? What does Quranic riba actually look like according to this analysis?
And here it is, the aha moment. When you put it all together, the source's analysis points to this. Riba isn't just any interest or any increase. It's something very specific. It's an exploitative, compounding growth, usually on debts of necessity, people borrowing because they have to, that ends up trapping them and creating systemic oppression. It's a cycle of injustice.
So let's just list out the characteristics, the profile of this Quranic riba. 1, it's exploitative. 2, it grows and compounds dramatically. 3, it's explicitly not the same as legitimate trade. 4, it means taking more than your principal. And 5, and this is the big one, it results in zulm or oppression because it preys on a power imbalance. It's all about profiting from someone's hardship. So now we have this clear profile of what we're looking for, and this is where we pivot. We take this definition and we put the modern Islamic finance industry on trial. The big question, does the industry actually avoid this kind of exploitative riba, or has it just gotten really good at avoiding the word riba? Let's take a look at a classic example, the murabaha. On the surface, it's pretty straightforward. You want a $20,000 car. The Islamic bank buys it for $20,000. Then they immediately sell it to you for, say, $25,000, and you pay them back in installments. That extra $5,000, the bank calls it their profit from a trade.
But hold on a second. We have to ask the critical question the source brings up. Is the bank really in the car selling business? Do they have a showroom? Do they want to take on the risk of owning cars?
Or is the car just a clever workaround, a way to structure a transaction so that, in substance, you get a $20,000 value today and you're locked into paying back $25,000 over time? Is it genuine trade, or is it basically a loan wearing a disguise?
Now, let's just pause here and remember that ethical principle we saw earlier, right there in the verses next to the ones about riba. If someone is in hardship, then let there be postponement until ease. The spirit here is about leniency, about making things easier for someone who is struggling. Just keep that in your back pocket for a second. Because then you run into something like tawarruk. This is for when you just need cold, hard cash. The bank orchestrates this rapid-fire series of commodity trades, often just on paper, that you never even see. And at the end of it all, voila, $10,000 appears in your account. The catch? You now owe the bank $12,000. It's hard to see how that aligns with that principle of postponement until ease, isn't it?
And this is where the source really lays its cards on the table. It argues that if you strip away the Arabic terminology and the complex paperwork, what you're left with looks suspiciously familiar. A murabaha is basically a loan with a markup. An ijara looks a heck of a lot like a mortgage. Tawarruk, a personal loan with extra steps. A sukuk, it's a bond. The argument is that the economic substance is exactly the same.
And this brings us right back around to that powerful verse from earlier. The one that says people will justify their actions by saying trade is just like riba. It's a warning, almost a prophecy, about this very confusion, mistaking an exploitative loan for a legitimate sale.
But here's the twist. This central accusation the source makes, it says the modern industry does the exact opposite. It's not people saying trade is like riba. It's an industry taking what is in substance riba, a loan where money increases over time, and dressing it up with all the legal paperwork to call it trade. It's a total inversion.
So, where does that leave us? Our whole investigation boils down to this one final question. What really matters in a financial transaction? The form or the substance? The appearance or the reality?
Based on this textual deep dive, the source's conclusion is pretty clear. The Quran seems to care way more about the substance of a deal than its form. The questions it asks are fundamentally ethical, not legalistic. Is this transaction exploitative? Is it creating oppression? Is it preying on someone's need? What you call it, or how many pages the contract has, that's all secondary to the real-world impact.
And so we're left with this. A really challenging question that goes way beyond just finance. When we judge our economic systems, what's the true measure? Is it the cleverness of the legal contracts in the form of the transaction? Or is it the substance, the real tangible impact it has on people's lives?